Yo, what's up, man? It's your boy HipHopGamer. You already see what's behind me, son. This joint is ridiculous, man. UFC 3 with Pride. You don't understand what I just experienced. You know what I'm saying? So, listen, I have the producer of the game.
Hello.
Nevin.
Yeah,
Nevin.
you got it.
Alright, I would say his last name, but I know I'm going to mess it up.
Drabinsky.
There we go. Now, listen, I just had a full-on demo of this game. And the first thing you're going to notice is that they made it still hardcore, but they also opened the door for the casual gamer to come in. So can you explain to the fans like the new steps that you took to bring those casual people in
Sure,
into the gameplay?
Absolutely. I mean, I think like you touched upon it, right? It is still a hardcore game. I mean, we don't alienate our hardcore Undisputed fans, but you know, we introduced an alternate control scheme. We're calling it amateur control. So those quarter circle, greater than quarter circle turns on the right stick to do transitions have now been replaced by simple flick up, flick down. I mean, not to say that you have an advantage using that, but it's really the point is to get more people coming in, playing the game, because the game is fun when you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah,
it's fun when you're not feeling frustrated. So, and that's the thing. We want more people coming in, playing, and then eventually you'll want to graduate to the pro or classic controls.
Yeah.
We've also introduced a new submission system, a graphic-based submission system, and a lot of this like in-game education, kind of these tutorial hints to really, you know, focus on teaching you how to play the game. You know, because as I said, right, it's more fun when you know what you're doing, when you're taught how to play. Unfortunately, I just can't go to everyone's living room.
I feel you.
But you know, hopefully the in-game stuff makes it worthwhile.
I got something to tell y'all. Real talk, I'm gonna explain to you how fun the game is from an amateur level. Even with the advanced, it was always fun for me. I'm nice, you already know that. But from an amateur level, let me tell you what they did, right? Let's say we in the clinch, it's like that, right? You just flick the button down, and then it puts you in a position to get the person on the ground just for one flick. Or if you flick it up, then it's aiming for the head. So before, you used to have to go through so much stuff. But now that they have that, everybody could get in and get involved quick. Now, let me ask you your personal opinion. Who's your best fighter in this game and why?
Well, I mean, actually, the way I fight, it's dependent on who you pick, right? I mean, so certain people are like, they go, oh, I'm only fighting with Anderson, or I fight with Rashad, but actually the way that I've found to be most successful is depending on who you pick, I'm going to pick my fighter to kind of either complement or, you know, be the anti-fighter for your guys. So if you're picking a guy that's strong on the ground, I'm usually going to try and pick like a wrestler or somebody with good takedown defense because I want to keep it standing, or I'll maybe just try and get a guy that I think is better than yours on the ground. So really, I mean, the way like I personally play is like it really just depends on who the guy picks first, and then I pick my guy off of that. So certain people are very different. They're very like, you know, when I play my designer, he's like, nope, I fight with these guys, and that's the guy I fight with, and you know, you're not going to get out of my
comfort zone.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, for me, it's really just, I mean, that's how I enjoy fighting, is just kind of like, well, what are you going to be trying to do? And I'm going to try and either, you know, screw that up or do the exact opposite of what you're doing.
So that's how you beat me the second time then, right? See, now I know his trick, because the first time I beat the producer. So, you know what I'm saying? But he kicked my ass. Like, he came back and destroyed me. Now, one thing I want to ask that, something that I noticed is that I know you guys got Pride. Now, with Pride, right? What's some of the differences that people are going to see when they play in Pride as opposed to the traditional UFC format? Because the first thing I noticed is just how big the mat is. And having that space creates different type of fighting because you can think different.
Absolutely.
It's supposed to be in the octagon. So can you let the fans know about
well,
that?
sure. I mean, you know, obviously for those guys who don't know what Pride is, it's now a defunct Japanese mixed martial arts organization that the UFC bought out to get their fighters into Pride. Different rule set. I mean, I think to me that's the coolest part about the game, that we have the Pride rule set in the game. You weren't allowed to do elbows to the head, but pretty much everything else went. You know, I mean, UFC rules are very specific, but in Pride you could face stomp somebody on the ground, kick them in the head while they're on the ground.
You can soccer kick them.
While they're on the ground, you can knee them in the head. I mean, it was a much more brutal style of fighting. You know, they certainly weren't interested in the longevity of their fighters as UFC is. But you know, I talked to a lot of fighters, and they're like, look, you know, I wouldn't mind fighting in Pride rules because if you're on the ground getting kicked in the face, that's your fault for getting in that position.
Wow.
So you know, I mean, things that you're going to see immediately are, you know, first of all, you're fighting in a ring, not an octagon, big white hot ring. And then from there, you know, the rule set is mentioned, different abilities. And I think what's really cool that we were able to do is that you can fight any UFC guy in Pride rules, and then you can fight any Pride guy in UFC rules. So you can play the whole roster in either rule set. It's just what you're able to do is going to be different depending on what rule set you're in. So
now the next thing I want to mention, this is the part of the game that's going to be revolutionary, right? Now, remember when we was talking about that setting that you have where you generalized all the settings?
Yeah.
So the reason why I felt this was crazy is because with the general settings,
that's our equalized stats, right?
Yeah, equalized stats. What it does is it's not all about, oh, this person's got more power level than me, so he's going to easily win. No, it really makes you have to really work hard in the game and show your true skill set against the opponent that you're playing. So you don't have a one-up against somebody unless you're that nice and not just the character.
Absolutely.
So, like, what was the idea behind that?
Well, I mean, I think you touched on it, really. It's like, let's get more people playing this game and playing this game how they want to play it, right? So we introduced, as you mentioned, this equalized stats setting, and that's going to normalize everybody's stats to the same level, right? So it's about your controller inputs and your move set versus my character's move set and my controller inputs. It's more of a very even level playing field. We also introduced what we call this the equalized stat setting, the competition rule spec, right? So that's going to remove all the random elements. That's going to be no doctor stoppages, no flash knockouts. Much more suitable to say a fighting game tournament to play UFC like that. But then conversely, we found that people really like the hardcore simulation aspect of the game, so we introduced also this simulation energy setting, and that's going to allow you to have a much more hardcore experience, much more like a real fight. If you throw too many punches, you're going to be gassed quicker. If you take like a few clean shots, you're going to be rocked a lot quicker. So it's a much more hardcore way of playing, much more like a real fight. You're seeing guys like, they're not in there just trading, that lasts for like 30 seconds, So, for some people, they want to play like that. Some people want to play, in the much more kind of like sort of arcade experience with the equalized stats settings.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, again, the goal was let's get as many people playing this game. We've made it easier to get into. It's still as complex and nuanced as it was before, but now there's so many different ways to play it, and it's really up to you, however you want to do it.
I got two more questions because I know I got to wrap this up. First of all, the engine tweaks. Like, when you fight into this game, let's say you come in with a hook like this. I could block your hook with a straight jab, and then you see the physics like start, like your arm will go like that. Is that realistic? Seriously, it's like, I give you an example. You know how I'm controversial, I keep it real. It's more realistic than EA's MMA game. It's more realistic than Supremacy MMA game. That is the truth. It's UFC right here. You see it on the mat. It's crazy. Like, you get a look at the mat. It's crazy. I kid you not. So everybody else you have to step your game up. If not, you're gonna lose straight up because what they did was amazing. So can you explain the engine tweaks?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, and you're right. I mean, like, I always kind of joke, like, the game's been in development for 5 years. It goes into a box every now and then, but I mean, we're always still working on it. So what you were talking about is that sort of quick strike interrupt system that we have. So using quick strikes by not holding forward on the left stick, you're doing your kind of jabs and your straights. And that can interrupt what our strong strikes, which are when you hold forward towards a guy and then do a punch or a kick button, you're going to do your hooks and your crosses. So I can, much like in real boxing, I can use the jab to set up my stronger attacks, and that jab is going to interrupt or throw off the trajectory of your strong strike. So you get much more in the pocket. I mean, we had the sways that we had last year.
Yeah, you can sway on the ground.
Now you can sway on the ground too. Yeah, that's new for this year as well. Crazy. I mean, it certainly, I mean, we keep talking about all this accessibility that we've added to the game, but it's still a very nuanced, hardcore game. And we added feints to the striking system as well. You can cancel strikes as well.
I'm sorry, awesome. just to show you what he's talking about. Let's say you're in a fight, right? Now you got your punches, you got your kicks, but if you want to kick, you can do something like this, and then kick like that. So you actually faking it, or you could go like this and then swing, do the fist like that. It's spot. I will punch you, The game is that crazy. When does it come out, man?
February 14th, Valentine's Day. So, ladies, you've been hitting at your man to take him to dinner, and
you get roses and dinner and chocolate. You get us UFC.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about. So the last question before I let you guys go, and I just want to say thank you guys so much. There's other people in here, so I just thank everybody. But the last question before I go, right? Now, to my knowledge, you guys got 150 fighters, plus. 150 plus fighters.
Yes.
Now, when we was talking playing the game, that's ridiculous, though. 150 fighters, really? Like that's.
Yeah, I don't know of another game that has that kind of a detailed roster. I mean,
it just don't. So that's one thing. But here's the killer. As we was playing, this was the first match when I was destroying them for a minute. I caught them with some stuff. So anyway, throughout the first match and stuff, here's the thing. You mentioned something. I'm not sure if you meant to say it.
Sure.
But it was I know you guys working on DLC and stuff like that. And did I hear correctly about you guys may have like downloadable arenas, like other Octagon arenas or other things that you want to add that we probably don't see on UFC like anymore today, like anything classic, or like what do you guys really got planned for the DLC?
Well, I don't know if I said downloading arenas, but I mean, we're not getting into too much of the DLC. Okay. I mean, I think it's obvious that there will be fighters. I mean, that makes like perfect sense, and we have a couple other things that we're talking about, but I would say stay tuned and you're going to get more about it. But certainly, I mean, I think the obvious DLC options are probably in store.
All right, no problem. Well, listen, I can't talk about career mode because I already got they already said don't even talk about it. So I'm not going to talk about career mode. All I know is, considering that you guys got introductions now, like they got the full fighter entrances. Come down the aisle, you got the belt. Everything is authentic and pride in UFC when you play them. I can only imagine what the career mode is going to be like just by knowing what you did with the actual game. So on that note, I just want to say one love, God bless. And do you guys got any like special promotional plans like via Facebook or like a page, get a shirt?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're as I think I mentioned, we're heavily involved with our community.ufcundisputed.com. I mean, we literally, these are the guys we brought in all year to help us focus test and make the game. Our Facebook page as well as thq.com. I mean, these are the places to go to get the most information about what we're doing, and certainly, I mean, community and fan outreach is a really big part of this game. I mean, like I said, a lot of the things that went into this game this year were for everybody, right? Like, let's get people playing this game how they want to play, what they want to see, and there were a lot of boxes that got checked this year. So, like I said, going to community.ufcundisputed.com is going to be one of your best places to get the best information.
Yo, well, one love and God bless, man. Yo, Nevin, God bless you, man. You guys are kicking ass with this game. Valentine's Day, man. UFC 3. Will it be in 3D?
Depends.
Oh, I just, UFC 3D, it just sounded nice, rolling off the tongue.
Depends on, where you came from previously. It might be in 3D.
Oh, I'm about to say, I don't know. Well, all right. Well, all right, one love, y'all. We'll catch y'all later. HipHopGamerShow.com. Peace.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is THQ Tank, your official UFC Undisputed 3 community manager, bringing you our first edition of Inside the Octagon, starring Donald Cerrone and Benson Henderson. And I'm going to get off the mic here and hand it to our lead designer, Wes Spun, and assistant producer, Nick Robertson. They're going to take you through the match and show you what's new and awesome about our ground game.
All right, thank you so much, Tank. All right, before we get into the fight, let's talk about what we got here. What we're seeing on screen now is something the fans have been asking for, and we're happy to say that they're finally in. Fighter entrances have made their way into the game.
Yeah, people so far that have seen it have been pretty stoked on it. Got a lot of those signature entrances in there. Rampage coming out and doing his howl. Jones doing the cartwheel when he enters the cage. Henderson praying before he goes in here. So you definitely get those personalities, those fighter personalities right from the get-go.
Yeah, and they're also very informative. You're going to hear Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg also give you some history about the fighter, what they're good at, their strengths and weaknesses. So if you're not familiar with all 150 fighters in the game, Joe Rogan will give you a little bit of insight to what your guys are good at, and that's very, very helpful.
Yeah, it can definitely help you, game plan what you're going to do with this fighter. If you've got a guy like Cerrone who's got, good Muay Thai and good submissions, then you're going to want to, tailor your game plan around that, avoid his submissions and avoid the clinch.
Yeah, so these two guys they fought in the past. They're former WEC fighters. They fought in the past, had some tremendous battles on the ground. I think that's why we wanted to showcase them here, because they just have excellent ground game in the game as well.
Yeah, both of those fights were just back and forth, crazy action on the ground. So we figured these guys would be a good choice to show off our new ground stuff.
So we've jumped into the game here now, and you're going to see I'm controlling Cerrone and Nick's controlling Benson. I take him to the ground there from the standing back clinch, and the ground transitions are pretty much the same as last year. Using all your transitions are done on the right stick. We do have a new control scheme this year. The alternate control scheme allows you to flick up or down on the right stick to perform your transitions, but we still have the classic controls, the pro controls, that allow you to stall your transitions by starting the input and then completing the transition maneuver.
So right here, I'm kind of holding off, waiting to see what he's going to do. Wes is pretty tricky on the ground. Notice he didn't transition, so I tried to grab his head. He struck out of the clinch there.
Yeah, that's a new feature we wanted to add this year. So you have the ability to perform a transition to enter a head clinch position, or you can just transition block to prevent me from posturing up. It's a little bit easier to perform.
And then here I'm using some ground sway, so avoid the ground and pound. You can actually move your head, stay out of the way of those punches. We'll get back to your feet. gives you a few different options for how to defend yourself on the ground.
And we're seeing here now, this is a new position that we've added into the game. We have the seated cage position, so we have open guard variant of that, half guard variant of it, and allows you to perform submissions off the cage, wall walk on the defensive end as you try to push me into the cage here. Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Now you can push their head up into the cage, and you can actually get more damage. You have options with the using the cage.
What you're seeing here now on screen is the actual submission system. It's a brand new submission system that we've added this year. Basically, the attacker is on the outside of the HUD. You're trying to overlap the defender who's moving around the octagon. The longer that you stay on top of the defender, you'll see the camera start to push in, and that indicates that you're closer to finishing the submission. When the camera pulls out, you're closer to escaping the submission. So getting a lot more feedback this year in terms of what's going on with the submission and how close you are to finishing or escaping.
And there's also that bar right there in the middle that shows which player is winning. Or show the red or blue filling up so you know when the submission is going to finish exactly.
Right, the shine is gone, people. The shine is gone.
Oh, he's out of it. Nicely done. Final 30 seconds. Non-title fight scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds. Uh-oh, these are big strikes. Oh, he's got him dazed.
Ooh, just got rocked there, son.
Yeah, I was waiting for a transition, and I just left my chin open there. It was not good.
And saved by the bell. It's going to pick it up here in round 2, actually. So let's see here. I think I'm going to go in for a little clinch there and try and go for the takedown. So I got the takedown. You'll notice there that it went to a little bit of a struggle state. We removed all instant takedowns this year. The only time you can get an instant takedown is on a major counter. So when the opponent is throwing a strike, a strong strike or a technique strike, that's when you can get that instant takedown. There's no other instances of that.
And there you saw my head was up against the cage. I was trying to sway out of the way, but since the cage was there, I was unable to and had to just get right back up to my feet, clinch up here.
Yeah,
some bows.
It definitely makes the cage more impactful this year. You can, if you want to scoot the guy up against the cage, it does more damage and it restricts their movement.
Here's one of the new submissions we've added in, the Bendo signature standing guillotine. He's thrown this up in a lot of fights, so something we definitely had to include in there.
Oh, he threw an elbow from the bottom, too, as well. Got a lot of technique strikes from the bottom that can actually cut your fighter this year. So you have like Kenny Florian who can throw those elbows from the bottom and cut you. And that does have an impact on gameplay. Actually slows the energy and stamina consumption rate, or recovery rate, excuse me. I'm blocking my transition there. I'm stalling on you a little bit.
Yeah, then of course I'm getting some elbows because of it.
So again, with the submission system, you're definitely going to be able to see why you're winning and losing. When you're caught, call that stage caught when you're overlapping, there's a little bit of a sticky effect so that you can't just immediately escape right out of it. So you'll definitely feel it once you get your hands on it.
Here now he's throwing in the Go-Go Plaza. This is definitely a move I do not want to get caught in. It's one of my favorites, and to get submitted with it would be quite demoralizing.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to determine who's winning and losing and who's controlling which fighter. The P1 and P2 indicate the player 1, player 2. Also, if you forget, you can look at the tape around your gloves, red corner, blue corner. That's what those colors represent.
Here, I'm teeing off, getting a little cocky. I got the mount position. Still postured up, throwing some heavy strikes here.
So what I was doing there was actually trying to block his strikes, timing or swaying or blocking his strikes. If I effectively sway one of his strikes and then immediately try to transition, my transition window rate is increased a little bit. So you might want to try to do that. So I get the finish there on you.
Yeah, definitely paid the price. Thought I had you, and as you can see, I did not.
So yeah, that's the ground game has undergone some major changes this year. It's something that you guys are going to have to pick up and play. But the key basics for the ground game, the ground sways, allowing you to survive the rock state, which is something that you couldn't do last year. Last year you just had to cover up and hope you could weather the storm. Now you have options. You can sway to avoid strikes. You can counter grapple to catch the punch and pull the guy down into a clinch position. And again, when your opponent's postured up, if you're swaying or successfully blocking, if you try to transition immediately afterwards, you'll be able to increase the success rate of your transition.
And the last thing you'll see here, we've got the the fight metric style report showing exactly what damage was done to each body part, so you know at the end of the fight why you got knocked out or submitted or just dominated.
And yeah, that's going to go across all modes this year, so you'll be able to see after every fight this breakdown. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks, Nick, for helping me out, and we'll be back inside the octagon giving you some